I'm back with more, hopefully non-rambling lectures for you. I apologise if the introductory lectures tend to be, or the first few minutes of the lectures tend to be like wishy-washy, because I'm trying to feel the rhetoric as I make it, right? So that itself was rambly, so proof in the pudding. Here goes. So I'm going to continue talking about Feste and Malvolio, and what I want to do is focus specifically on how they, how should we say, analyze characters, right? And I think in their analysis, we begin to identify how nuanced they are as evaluators of the world around them, as evaluators of the world in which they live in and operate, right? So I would like us to consider, for example, the scene in which I would say we receive perhaps the most detailed in the play description of what Cesario looks like, right? So this is hot tea. This is Act 1, Scene 5, right? Cesario has come knocking on Olivia's door for the first, if not but not last time, and Toby has been asked, who is this gentleman, right? And Toby is too drunk to make any sense, let alone sense of who Cesario might be, but just he does not make any sense, period. So Olivia is kind of disgusted with him, and she tells him, well, she tells the fool to take care of him, right? She's like, I'm so done with this guy. Exit the fool with, exit the fool to look after Toby. Enter Malvolio, right? So this is Act 1, Scene 5. Malvolio says, "Madam, yon young fellow swears he will speak with you. I told him you were sick. He takes on him to understand so much, and therefore comes to speak with you. I told him you were asleep. He seems to have a foreknowledge of that too, and therefore comes to speak with you. What is to be said to him, lady? He's fortified against any denial." Right, and this Malvolio has made up lies and excuses, but Cesario is obviously armed with social awareness and knows how to, say, weasel his way around these denials, right? Olivia says, "Tell him he shall not speak with me." "Has been told so," says Malvolio. "And he says he'll stand at your door like a sheriff's post and be the supporter to a bench, but he'll speak with you." This has piqued Olivia's interest, right? She is not used to having anyone other than the fool combat her, if you will, right? And here comes this young man who is refusing to play the game as she plays it. He's going to wait her out, right, till he's going to be seen, admitted. So this piques her curiosity, and the question she asks is, what kind of man is he? Malvolio. And this is where I want you to start noticing how, to Malvolio, the questions are opportunities to kind of make up. And I don't mean make up as in fabricate, but really construct the character of another, right? So what kind of man is he? Why of mankind? What manner of man? Of very ill manner. He'll speak with you, will you or no? Of what personage and years is he? And this is the description, right? We don't get anything more about Cesario for the longest time in the play, regarding how Cesario looks, regarding how vile a Cesario looks, right? Of what personage and years is he? Not yet old enough for a man, nor young enough for a boy, as a squash is before 'tis a peace god, or a codling when 'tis almost an apple. 'Tis with him in standing water between boy and man. He's very well favoured, and he speaks very shrewishly. One would think his mother's milk was scarce out of him. Let him approach. Call in my gentlewoman, right? What do we see? I mean, what do we hear from Malvolio about Cesario, right? He seems to be a sort of post-adolescent, teenage type guy, so not yet a man, and I think this is part of the reason Orsino finds Cesario so useful and charming, right? He's kind of feminized, boyishly mannish, right? Womanish, if you will. And of course, we know that Viola has stated her intent in presenting herself to this new world, to Illyria, and specifically to Orsino as a eunuch, right? But we don't hear about that after this point, right? We don't hear about this his eunuch identity as much as his boyish identity. So it's a very interesting kind of forgetfulness in the play, and we'll think about this in the context of authorial intention when I make that lecture video. But Malvolio describes him physically, and then in response to what kind of personage, what kind of age, what kind of demeanor, he starts constructing Cesario as somebody of not noble but high enough class, right? This boy is he sounds like a bit of an entitled brat, doesn't he? I mean, he's just not going to give up. It's almost like his mother's milk is still in his mouth or scarcely out of his mouth. So because his youth is in his favor, he has gotten away perhaps with, I don't want to say tantrums, but Malvolio seems to suggest ill behaviors, right? So he has been unmannerly, and he gets away with it because he's this cute little man, or cute almost man. And this is what makes Olivia really curious about this guy. Malvolio has not been able to outright put him down like he has Feste, right? Earlier in the same scene, just a few lines before Cesario knocks on their door, Malvolio has said in a rather cutting manner, I think, that the fool is not really funny. I mean, I've seen so many better. And in fact, the other day I saw somebody put down the fool and he had no answer. How do you even bear with him? It's a mystery. That kind of put down comes rather easily and readily to Malvolio. So he could have put down this boy, Cesario, rather efficiently, and he doesn't, right? In fact, in his wishy-washy description, he renders Cesario perhaps too much of a curiosity to miss out on, right? And that's how and why Olivia says, "Well, bring him in and let's see what this mystery boy type guy is." And of course, we find immediately that Cesario has won Olivia's heart. Whether he wanted it for himself or herself remains something that we should remains to be seen, right? And we'll talk about it about character intentionality. Does Cesario or Viola as Cesario draw upon Olivia's attraction with some deliberate sense of delight, right? With some naughtiness, if you will. That's something we'll talk about in another lecture. But right now, I want to have you compare Malvolio's description, and also remember that immediately after this, he chases after Cesario and throws the ring that Olivia has allegedly received from Cesario, right? He throws the ring at Cesario because Cesario is like, I didn't give her any ring, dude. And Malvolio is like, yeah, you did. And toss and leave, right? So it's this really brusque, somewhat silly and brief engagement with the two. The two have with one another and they go apart. Compare this with when Feste and Feste and Cesario meet, right? So we have the first encounter in which the two of them talk with one another. This is Act 3, Scene 1. Enter Viola and Clown with a tabor. Viola says, and I'll read both sets of lines, both characters' lines, that is. Save thee, friend, says Viola, and thy music. Dost thou live by the tabor? No, sir, I live by the church. Art thou a churchman? No such matter, sir. I do live by the church, for I do live at my house, and my house doth stand by the church. So thou mayest say, says Viola, the king lies by a beggar if the beggar dwell near him, or the church stands by thy tabor if thy tabor stand by the church. You have said, sir, says the clown, to see this age. A sentence is but a cheverel glove to a good wit. How quickly the wrong side may be turned outward. Nay, that's certain, says Viola, or Cesario. They that dally nicely with words may quickly make them wanton. Feste says, I would therefore my sister had no name, sir. Why, ma'am? Why, sir, her name's a word, and to dally with that word might make my sister wanton. But indeed words are very rascals, since bonds disgrace them. Thy reason, ma'am. Trot, sir, I can yield you none without words, and words are grown so false I'm loath to prove reason with them. I warrant thou art a merry fellow, and carest for nothing. To which the clown says, Not so, sir, I do care for something, but in my conscience, sir, I do not care for you. If that be to care for nothing, sir, it would make you invisible. Art not thou the Lady Olivia's fool? No, indeed, sir, the Lady Olivia has no folly. She will keep no fool, sir, till she be married, and fools are as like husbands as pilchards are to herrings, the husband's the bigger. I'm indeed not a fool, but her corrupter of words. So on and so forth. The engagement continues, but what is really remarkable here is that, like Malvolio, Feste too is suspicious of this character, that is Cesario, right? While Malvolio is not able to say flatly, I do not care for you, Feste is. Feste's language is more indirect, but both Malvolio and Feste seem to understand language as this fluid thing that can be used and misused, and those that have control over it have control of a situation, right? Have control of the environment in which they navigate the traffic, the human traffic that they encounter. So while the knee-jerk reaction we might have after reading the play is to think of Malvolio and Feste as being diametrically opposed to one another, excuse me. What I would like to suggest to you as you think about these fools and clowns in the play is that they all seem to be wordsmiths. They all seem to understand language is power, and they all understand that corruption of language is perhaps the most common means by which to acquire power through indirect manner.